Hola, hola, hola! Señor here to tell you about telling time in Spanish. Let's start off with how to ask, what time is it? The way you would ask that is, ¿Qué hora es? ¿Qué means what? Hora is a time, and es is it? ¿Qué hora es? Let's talk about how to answer that, and we're going to do time to the hour. But before we get started with that, we're going to talk about the one exception to the rules on how to do this, and that's for 1 o'clock. 1 o'clock is always expressed es la una. It's 1 o'clock. And you'll notice that you probably learned the word for one as uno, but here it's una. And the reason for that is the word hora, which means time, is feminine, so uno gets changed to una. None of the other numbers have this problem, though. All the rest of the numbers will be just as you learn them. All right, let's start off with telling time to the hour. Basically, you follow a formula. You start with son las, which means it is, and then you have the hour. When you translate it, just translate it as it is whatever o'clock, but just know that in Spanish, there's not really a word for o'clock. All right, here's an easy one. So we have 2 o'clock. We start with son las, and then we put in our number for the hour, son las dos. Let's do another one. We have 7 o'clock, son las siete. 11 o'clock, we just start with son las, it is. Then we need the number for the hour, son las once. It's 11 o'clock. Let's take a look at this one for 1 o'clock. We'll start with son las. No, we won't. It's es la una. It's the exception. All right, let's talk about time up to the minute. All right, the formula for time up to the minute is you start with just plain old son las, you have the hour, but then to express the minute, you add e, which means and then the number for the minute. Son las is it is, and then when you translate the time, just say it like normal. Don't say anything weird like 9 and 20. Just say 9:20. Let's take a look at this one. We've got 2:05. We're going to start with son las. We need the hour, which is dos, y cinco for the minutes. Notice that there's no placeholder word for o like we say in English. Next, we have 10:13. So we'll start with the hour, son las diez, and then the minute, y trece. 10:13. 1:11 a.m. We can't start with son las. We've got to start with es la una for 1 o'clock. Y once, 1:11. And one more. Here we have 8:25. So we'll start with son las ocho y veinticinco. Let's talk about quarter and half hours. You know how sometimes you'll talk to an older person and they'll say things like, it's a quarter till 4 when they really mean 3:45, or it's half after 7 when they're saying 7:30. This happens in Spanish too. And the words that we use for that are cuarto, which literally means 1/4 or a quarter, and media, which means middle or half. And the reason for this is if you imagine dividing up a clock into fourths, cuarto, a fourth of an hour, is 15 minutes, and media, a half hour, is 30 minutes. Let's see this in practice. So here we have 6:15. Son las 6:15. It's 6 1/4. Because remember that cuarto is 15 minutes. Let's look at another one. Here we have 1:30. Es la una y media. Remember that media is representing a half hour or 30 minutes. Let's talk about noon and midnight. All right, the word for noon is mediodía. And you can't say son las mediodía. You have to say es el mediodía. And mediodía is kind of interesting because you have medio, middle, and día, day, because noon's at the middle of the day. Next, let's talk about midnight. We would say es la medianoche. Notice we have media, middle, and noche, night, because midnight's in the middle of the night. Next, let's talk about expressing time of day. There's 3 expressions that you add on to the end of your time sentence to express time of day. So for in the morning, you would add on de la mañana. So here we have 8 a.m. So we would start with son las ocho. It's 8 o'clock. De la mañana. Son las ocho de la mañana. It's 8 o'clock in the morning. Next, let's do in the afternoon, which is de la tarde. You would use this from noon until about the time it starts to get dark. Let's take a look at this one. We have es la 1:30, so it's 1:30, and to make it in the afternoon, we just add de la tarde to the end. So we end up with it's 1:30 in the afternoon. And finally, let's talk about in the evening, which is de la noche. You just add this to the end just like all the others. So here we have 10:15, son las 10:15, and to make it 10:15 at night, son las 10:15 de la noche, saying it's 10:15 in the evening. Next, let's talk about menos, saying things like it's a quarter till 4 for 3:45, or saying like it's 10 till 3 when they mean 2:50. Let's talk about how to do that in Spanish. All right, so you have to do this for any time that's basically 31 and above, so the second half of an hour. And so what you do is you start off with a regular sentence for the hour, but you go to the next one. So for 5:55, we're going to start with son las 6, it's 6 o'clock, and then we're going to subtract off the number of minutes until that hour. So we'll add menos 5. Son las 6 menos 5. It's 6 o'clock minus 5 minutes. And so if you think about this with a clock, right, it's really just a math problem. 6 o'clock minus 5 minutes gives you 5:55. You can also do it with words like cuarto, which mean a quarter. So let's look at this one. We have 3:45. We're starting with time to the next hour, son las 4, and then we're subtracting the amount of time back. Menos cuarto, minus a quarter. So it's basically a quarter behind 4 o'clock. So 4 o'clock minus 15 minutes gives us 3:45. And sometimes it'll get a little tricky when you have to do bigger numbers. So in this case here we have 4:35. So we would have son las 5 menos 25. So it's 5 o'clock minus 25 minutes, which would give us 4:35. Quick recap. ¿Qué hora es means what time is it? 1 o'clock has a special phrase, es la 1. When you tell time to the hour, you start with son las and then the hour. So for example, 3 o'clock would be son las 3. When you do time to the minute, you just add e and the minutes. So 5:20 would be son las 5:20. Cuarto and media. Cuarto, it means a quarter, and in this case, for time, it basically means 15 minutes. Media means middle or half, and for our purposes, it'll be 30 minutes. And you can use these just the same way you would use the words 15 or 30, but cuarto and media are preferred above 15 and 30. Next, for time of day, you just add a phrase to the end. From midnight until noon, you would add de la mañana to say in the morning. From noon till dark, you would say de la tarde for in the afternoon. And from dusk until midnight, you would say de la noche for at night. And finally, menos times. So here we have that it is 10:55. So what we're going to say is that it's 5 minutes till 11. So son las 11 menos 5. So that's like saying 11 o'clock minus 5 minutes, which would give us 10:55. Gracias. Thank you so much for watching. Please, please, please remember to take ownership of your learning. Feel free to study. Practice your vocab. And if you don't get it from me teaching you, find some other sources and find somebody who can teach it better than I can. See you in class. Adios.